All right, let's dive into a really unique and pretty challenging text, Cruel Molecule, Dual Atoms. Now, this isn't just a story. It's a deep philosophical look at suffering, consciousness, and the very nature of a pretty bleak reality. So prepare yourselves. We're jumping straight into the deep end with this one. You see, the text wastes zero time. This opening line from the character W. Demon isn't some gentle invitation. It's a full-on confrontation. It throws us headfirst into a universe where hell isn't some place you go, but a state of mind you're already in. It's asking us to taste hopelessness. And honestly, that's the perfect place for our explainer to begin. So, who exactly lives in this grim world? In this first part, we're going to listen to the ways cruelty is expressed straight from the mouths of the monstrous beings that inhabit this reality. And you've got to understand, these creatures aren't just generic monsters. The text uses every single one, from a demon to a werecrab, as a kind of mouthpiece for a different philosophy of suffering. Each one represents a unique flavor of the malevolence that just permeates their world. So let's take Lord Hell, for example. His whole deal taps into a kind of cruelty we can all recognize, systemic domination. He's bragging, once one has something, one gets more, then more on top. It's this vicious, self-perpetuating cycle where having wealth just gets you more power, which lets you control whole societies from what he calls his infertile summit. And then you get a total 180. We shift from that detached, systemic cruelty of Lord Hell to the just raw nihilism of Cyclops Brown. I mean, he says it himself, his goal is to destroy as much as possible. For him, destruction isn't a means to an end. It is the end. It's just a pure expression of his will against everything else. The text gives us all these voices of cruelty, but it's not satisfied with just showing us the what. It wants to dig way deeper into the how and the why. So what's the actual engine that's driving all this pain and all this malevolence? Well, in this next section, the text makes a pretty radical argument. It says that the very tool we use to experience the world, our own consciousness, isn't a gift. It's the fundamental problem itself. Now, pay close attention to this definition. Consciousness is not being framed as, the seat of the soul or the peak of evolution. The text literally calls it a vile, shadowy creature, a biological mechanism whose main damning function is to let us perceive hell. I mean, think about it. A rock can't suffer, right? Only the conscious can. And if you thought that was bleak, get a load of this quote from the character Werecrab. It puts it even more bluntly. Consciousness isn't just a tool for suffering. It's a sickness, a malicious malady. The mind is framed as a diseased state of the brain, this awful mistake that dooms us all to insanity. This brings us to a really chilling philosophical question that the text poses. If the universe is deterministic, if everything is as inevitable as the laws of physics, then what's the point of consciousness? Is its only job to make us watch and feel the misery of a process that was going to happen anyway, with or without us? The text just leaves you to sit with that horrifying thought. Okay, so if consciousness is the vehicle for all this suffering, then what's the fuel? The text actually proposes a core metaphysical structure for its universe, an engine that powers a whole shebang. Let's get into that next. The text argues that it all boils down to two fundamental opposing forces. And we're not talking good and evil here, but something way more primal. Chaos and void. They're the twin atoms that everything in this existence is built on. So here's the direct comparison for you. Chaos is the generative, random, messy force that just bubbles up and creates life, matter, existence itself. The void, on the other hand, is the annihilating nothingness it all came from, and it's the state that everything will eventually go back to. Now, the text is super clear that chaos is not some malicious creator god. It's an impersonal engine, a cloud of randomness that has no intention. It's the thing that comes before life, but it has no mind or will of its own. It just creates. And the void, well, that's the inevitable destination. It's not an evil force, it's just the default state. The text presents it as the ultimate reality, complete and utter annihilation. All the random, complicated stuff that chaos spits out is destined to just return to this nothingness. But here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. These forces aren't neatly separated. Life, in this universe, is this creepy fusion of the two. It's a constant, horrifying state where chaos and void are all tangled up, where creation is totally inseparable from annihilation. Like the text says, death becomes life. So, we've gone from cruelty to consciousness to the metaphysics of the entire universe. Now let's bring it all the way back down and see how this all shows up in the most intimate way possible, our own personal experience. According to the texts, our subjective reality, it isn't a clear window to the world. No, it's an inescapable trap, a prison built by the very same tools we use to try and understand everything around us. The schizophrenia files inside the book break down exactly how our minds build reality. This slide shows you the process. First, we get raw sensory data from the physical universe. Then, that data gets filtered through the lens of our past, our internal state. The final result is our perception, an experience that is, by its very nature, subjective and, therefore, an illusion. This quote just gets right to the heart of it. We never experience objective truth directly. We only ever experience our internal, flawed interpretation of it. That objective, environmental truth is always being filtered through the subjective lens of our own consciousness. And here is the truly terrifying implication, voiced by the character Slender. If reality is constructed inside our own minds, then our own subjectivity, our own imagination, becomes the ultimate source of horror. The monster isn't just outside, it's the very tool we're using to perceive it. So, after going down through all these layers of philosophy, from cruel beings to a sick consciousness, from chaos and void to the prison of perception, what is the final, inescapable takeaway from all this? Well, the text doesn't offer any easy answers, and definitely no hope of escape. The conclusion, which Tisatu says so bleakly here, is that we are trapped in the subjective mental trap of our own flawed consciousness, reflecting a universe that is itself just a shapeless, meaningless scrap of existence. And so we have to end where the text leaves us, with a truly haunting question. It describes dreams as an inverted reality and nightmares as a mirror. So, if our waking perception is already a subjective illusion built from chaos and void, what deeper, or maybe even truer, reality are we tapping into when we fall asleep? The text offers no answer, just leaving us to ponder that one on our own.